अब तेरा ही दिखेगा हुनर, होगी तेरी चर्चा, अब छपेगी खबर। क्या अब तेरा ही दिखेगा हुनर, होगी तेरी चर्चा, अब छपेगी खबर। Come on, yeah.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Hunar Charcha, and this time we have a very special guest with us. Well, it's mostly special, but this one's a personal favorite. She's a writer, one of the best known authors that we've had. In fact, she's a star biographer. She's written biographies of some of the best known musicians that our country has known and seen, such as Hari Prasad Chaurasia, Jagjit Singh, S.D. Burman. But this is just to name a few of the books, apart from many other short stories that she's penned down as well. She's also one of the best known editors that the country has had. She's the former editor of the popular women's magazine FEMINA. And she's seen through that phase of where we've had the biggest winners of the Miss India, FEMINA Miss India pageant as well. We have with us Sathya Saran. It's so nice, Satyaji, to have you here with us. For our viewers at Hunar Charcha, it's such an honor to have you here. It's going to be an incredible interview, I'm sure, with respect to your long journey and experience. So let's make a start with what you're doing right now before we dip into all that has been part of your journey. What are you working on the latest?
Well, I've just started on a very it's a very creative, very tough biography because a lot of it has to come from my own knowledge of music, of Hindi film music, of lyrics, of situations and songs. So let's see how it goes. I'm just trying to see how deep it can go.
Okay. When you say it's tough, I'm curious to ask what feels tough at this stage, because you've had a very varied experience, not just as a journalist. And as a journalist, we're used to picking up diverse issues on a daily basis, right through current affairs, civil liberties, social rights, Bollywood films, the creative sector. But it's more manageable as a journalist, I feel. But when you wear the cap of an author, one has to go far more in depth on one particular issue. So how challenging is that?
See, it depends on what is available. If it is like many of the books I've written, the matter has been there out there. It's not difficult to just collate it and give it a new shape. But this particular one is tough because I don't have too much real material. It's more my understanding of what I hear and see and watch than actually, and of course, weaving it in with whatever is available. So let's see how it goes. It's a new format. It's a new approach.
Okay.
And it's an adventure.
All right. When you say it's a new format, it's a new approach, what's really meant by that?
You'll have to wait till the book comes out.
All right. But does one need to explore new styles of writing as well? Because since you've been active in this field for the past many decades, readers' sensibilities and readers' style of preference of reading a certain style has changed as well. So how do you tap that and understand how to remain not exactly relevant, but to still have that appeal in your writing down the generations?
See, one thing that's constant in my writing is I only write what I think is right, is true. So I always write from my heart. I use emotions to create emotions. So that remains, that has not changed. But yes, formats change because especially in biographies, for example, with so many biographies, everyone is writing a biography or an autobiography. So you need the interest alive by at least challenging the reader to say, here's something different. Look at it, read it, and let me see if you can put it down. So I challenge myself to create something that the reader cannot put down. Wow. And I think that is something that works. If that is your maksad, if that's what you're aiming at, and you are able to achieve, then it doesn't matter what format you use or whether it's old fashioned or new fashioned. If you can grip them, you've had it, you've got
Okay.
it.
Right. And even in this age of clickbait headlines, when consumption is on a very superficial level, how does that seem as a challenge, if at all, for you? When you're writing a book, how much of that do you keep in mind?
See, a lot of my books, for example, are about people who have lived their lives, and they're either at the end of their life or they have gone. So from that point of view, my readership itself is a kind of a niche readership of older people who know who these people were. But my attempt is also to capture the young reader, because they should know these lives, they should find inspiration in them. And for that, I do try and not make long chapters. I try and be anecdotal. I try and use language that's not, I always believe in simple language. I don't believe in multi-syllable words unless that particular word is the only word that can be used there to give the meaning I want. So I think I try subconsciously cater to a younger audience, because that's where the future is.
Right. Let's talk about the years that you had spent in Femina as the editor, and despite having left that responsibility, you're still one of the best known faces and the best known editors that Femina has ever had. And as a magazine, it has a legacy of dealing with multiple varied 360-degree on women issues, on feminism, on women rights. Where do you think we stand on the understanding of the concept of feminism today? Has there been a paradigm shift, or has there been a huge sea change in your understanding?
See, feminism, in my understanding, as an editor, for example, was very different from what the word symbolizes. When you say, somebody says, oh, you're a feminist, they mean it almost as a bad word. That, okay, you are vociferous, you are on the combat path, you are on the attack mode. That was not what we wanted to do in the magazine. We did not want to create Sas-Bahu situations. We didn't want to create man-women conflict. So for us, feminism was telling women gently that, look, you are not nobody. You are somebody. You have been invested with some skill sets, whatever they are. Just use them. And in the process, we spoke to men, we spoke to girls, we spoke to married women. So we kind of reached across the arc, the gender arc, to say, let's all be happier together. So that was the brand of feminism I believe in, and still believe in, and we practiced. Today, I will say feminism is a very confused spot.
Okay.
There are the feminists who are men haters, which is very sad. There are feminists who, like in the Ladli organization, who try to create gender sensitivity, who try to bring in an understanding of equality in the gender space, and applaud people who have managed to highlight issues and to bring them to the fore in advertising, in books, everywhere. And then there are those who believe that if you're a woman, you've suffered enough, so you're going to do just jolly well, please. I think that is a little dangerous, because people are not supposed to live in a vacuum. They're supposed to be social animals. They have to interact with family, with colleagues, and just eking out a path and saying, this is where I want to go, doesn't work. You have to take people along. So I think feminism is a very mixed space now, with a different understanding.
What do you think has the Me Too movement done to this concept of feminism? Has it drawn the lines far too sharp? On one end, of course, without doubt, it has helped giving closure, it has helped giving peace, it has helped giving justice to a certain set of victims and survivors. But on the other end, people have felt that it has become a tool of abuse from the side of women as well, and they feel the unfairness of it. It's an unpopular opinion, but at times people have felt the unfairness of using that as well. So, what do you think this global movement or Me Too movement did to this concept of feminism?
See, I think the Me Too movement was very necessary.
Right.
I wouldn't movement. I would say that people needed to speak up. Women needed to speak up because over the years, women have felt that if you spoke up, there was shame, there was dishonor. This was something instilled into them. And they were responsible for whatever happened to them. So what happened when some women started speaking up and the Me Too movement, as we call it, gathered force, is that this thing came out into the open that you are not to blame. The way you dress, the way you walk, the way you look at somebody or smile at them does not mean that you are to blame. That's how you are.
Right.
You know, when men do it, there's nothing wrong in it. So why is there something wrong in it? Unless you mean harm, unless you meant to invite harm on yourself and went about it. But nobody does that. Okay. So I think that's very important to bring it from under wraps, to give a new perspective. But on the other hand, I don't know whether it has had an effect as far-reaching as it should have, considering that chauvinism and the MCP aspect of gender politics is gaining a lot of strength again under some guise or the other, you know, because there are more opportunities for men to attack women. There are more opportunities for men to abuse women, emotionally, sexually, or physically. Right. So I don't know whether the Me Too movement really has been as far-reaching as it should. But yes, it has handled, and the light will shine.
All right. Let's talk about the beauty industry and the beauty pageant industry specifically per se, in which Femina has always been a very big part of. How do you think has the beauty pageant concept evolved down the years? Is it still as much sought after as it used to be?
See, the beauty pageant started, as far as I know, as a way of showing off handlooms. You know, and there the beauty pageant, from exhibitions and fashion shows to show off handlooms, the beauty pageant evolved. And it was just that.
Right.
But I think along the way, when I took over along with the event director and, you know, the team we formed, we started looking at a way to find young women who were intelligent, who were good looking, who were able to present themselves. And what we did was we honed their skills so that they could present themselves in the international arena.
Right.
It was like an ambassador out. We were looking to send out Indian ambassadors. Beauty is very subjective. We've had very, very beautiful girls, and we have had girls who you wouldn't call beautiful in the traditional sense. But yes, they themselves with a sense of self that was beautiful. Right. So I personally never thought of the Miss India contest in Femina when I was there as a beauty contest. We thought of it as a personality contest.
Okay.
Because how you talked and how you walked and how you entered a room was important, you know.
Right. And you were in the years when we had the biggest of our winners, and the phase where Miss India's really went international, with Sushmita Sen, Aishwarya Rai following Lara Dutt, Priyanka Chopra. But I specifically asked this because Priyanka Chopra herself in a recent interview here said that looking back 20 years to when she held the crown, she would have things differently for a beauty pageant vis-a-vis a criteria deciding on what a woman should be. She says 20 years back, one perhaps didn't question it as much, but now looking back for her at this age, she would look at it differently.
Well, that's possible because everybody changes with time. Maybe now, if we did the Miss India contest, we would do it differently. But you must understand that we were sending out delegates to a contest that already had the parameters laid down. So we followed those rules when it came to age, when it came to what they wore, when it came to what they said. A little bit had to be followed, but we tried to make them independently thinking women who felt pride in who they were, you know.
Right, right. Do you think that has changed with our latest Miss Universe, who's been very outspoken of not fitting into certain parameters of body shape and speaking about problems that she's had in maintaining a certain weight or shape and being very confidently blasé about this concept and saying that, hey, I'm Miss Universe, but you can still be different even while you hold the crown.
Which is very good, which is exactly where we wanted them to go.
Okay.
You see? Because, as I said, we were catering to a particular contest. Now, after she wins it, if they try to put her in a straitjacket and she rebels, they may punish her. But if she's open to risking that and saying, I still want to be my own person, hats off to her then. Hats off to her.
Yeah. In fact, she's actually gone ahead and done exactly that.
Very
Yeah, and because you also look into the fashion industry, you teach fashion, and you look into the beauty industry as well. How do you look at today's generation? Far more confident with who they are, what they look like. I mean, we have a generation full of Instagrammers and influencers. Are they willing as much to give to look at guidelines that are sent in from an established setup instead of having their own way of going about what suits them best and what's right for them?
You know, when I teach class sometimes, I have these young women, mostly women in front of me. The boys in my class are much more, you know, except for an exception once in a while. So the girls are the ones who are presenting themselves as young women of today, working in a fashion space, learning in a fashion space. And sometimes I am a bit shocked because fashion does not mean dressing differently. It means dressing differently, but to suit the occasion. So just as you would not go to a corporate office wearing shorts. You don't, I believe, I may be very old-fashioned about this, but you don't go to a temple of learning wearing shorts and an off-shoulder top.
Oh, I mean, that's your view, right?
That's many. Because I'm just saying there are clothes which fit the occasion, and don't wear party clothes too.
Right. All right. Let's move on to the world of publishing and LitFest. This is the season of LitFest that we're looking at right now. But have you identified a vacuum or a gap that in these LitFest that you felt needed to be filled? Because you had started your own, which was called the Unfestival, which was a writers' conclave. So how different is that to the other LitFest that we see happening around us?
See, I felt at one point that LitFest end up being a little bit of a show-off venue for authors.
Okay.
Where they come, they perform, or they interact, and they have gone. I mean, they just leave. They don't listen to other authors. They don't let others learn them beyond a point.
But wasn't it meant to be an interface of interacting directly with your reader and your colleagues?
It doesn't really happen. Maybe colleagues, among colleagues, it happens in the smaller fests. I've experienced it myself in a couple of fests where all the authors sit together, we chat, we form friendships sometimes, we argue. It's great. We
Yeah.
discuss our books.
Yeah.
But in the bigger, I noticed it quite often that an author will come, finish, and he's off. He's gone off,
Okay.
followed by a that's about it. And I felt a little frustrated about it. I also felt there was a clique of authors. I mean, festival directors had their personal choices, and they were a bit what is it called, dismissive of others whom they didn't like. And
Okay.
I somehow find all this very relishing. Things may have, I don't know, I'm talking about 7 or 8 years ago when I went to a couple of lit fests as an observer, and this is what I saw.
Right.
So I started this as an idea. I spoke to Sangeeta Jindal of JSW, who has a foundation, and I said, why don't I knew she loved books and she loved writers and like to encourage them. So I said, why don't we do this? We get 10 different people of different genres and sit down in one place and we read, we write, and we listen to each other and we
Right.
discuss books, discuss our writing. And believe me, it wonderfully. And it's the antithesis of a festival. We are not performing for anybody.
Okay.
We are not show, and we are really writing. We are writing under a small time frame in a limited space.
Oh, how
and it works
interesting.
wonderfully.
Okay.
Yes.
A final question to you before we wrap up. This increasing fascination, or once again, I would say, using the facility and using the service of self-publishing, because publishers, once again, have their own idea, can have their own clique, have their own preferences. So there are a lot of positives that writers and authors are looking at as an option of self-publishing and various self-publishing platforms. What do you think is the flip side of that, if at all?
See, it's a very strange contrast in the fact that there are more people writing and fewer people reading.
Mm-hmm.
So if the person is writing for not necessarily self-expression, but because they want fame to say, they want to say, I am a writer.
Okay.
And if they're willing to go through the process of being properly edited, self-publishing is the place to be.
Right.
Because you're something that's half baked into the market.
Right.
Which can spoil the stream downstream. People can think, oh God, everything that's self-published is bad.
Okay.
Which is not true. A lot of
Exactly.
writers who have self-published have done well because they have had something to say, something to offer, and was driven by that need that they didn't wait for a publisher to take his or her time over the book and then decide whether they want to publish it. They didn't want to be tested. They knew, they were convinced. So I think it's a new phenomenon. Let's see how it goes on.
Okay.
And whether to distribution and self-publishing is another story we need to know, because distribution is something that bugs every writer. Yes. I mean, I go to books, I don't see any of my books there, or I see one copy or two copies of a book, and it hurts me. Because I know I've worked on that book. I know it's been well received. So why is it not there?
Right.
Why does someone who asks me go to Amazon and order it? But then bookstores also have their own financial issues. They cannot keep a book if it's a moving book, and books are coming thick and fast. So I think it's a very complex world, and one has to navigate it to the best of one's knowledge.
All right. I guess that's going to be part of our next conversation when we meet next, where we have a better understanding of what has been the give back of self-publishing. But thank you so much. It's been a wonderful conversation, very enriching because of your long journey. And it was brilliant to have you here with us on Hunar Charcha.
Thank you. Thank you. I must say, you are a very soothing moderator for an
Thank you so
interview.
much. That's so lovely to hear.